Welcome everyone to tonight's Wednesday Night Live show. Why can't I just start the show without laughing? Our guest tonight is the one and only Lindsey Stroud will be joining us tonight. I think I'm the first one to use that hashtag. Do you like that hashtag, Lindsey?
The one and only Lindsey Stroud?
No, sure. the stats queen. The stats queen.
Oh, sure. I don't care. I mean, nobody else is doing it, so
might as well be me. Sure. I thought it was a great way to describe what Lindsey does every day for the industry and the community. There's so much research that's out there, and no matter how difficult they make to find, Lindsey somehow finds it and shares it with all of us. So we appreciate everything you do, and we're glad that you're part of the show tonight. But before we get into you, I got to introduce this amazing crew that I have right here. And we're going to start off with Allie. Allie, how is your week going?
It's going pretty good, getting ready for back to school. So shopping and, buying all fun school supplies. Last year, my son is a senior, so I'm drinking a lot of wine lately. But yeah, it's been pretty good. He's in marching band practice and he's home. He literally just walked through the door. So he leaves at 7 a.m. and he gets home at 7 p.m. So he's been busting his butt and keeping me busy too. So that's good.
Yeah. And he's a driver now with a vehicle.
Yes, he is. Yes.
You don't have to do
that. That saves a lot. Yeah.
Sammy.
Does that mean that it'll be driving Miss Allie? Is that how that's going to work?
No.
I like dress him up in a little outfit, tux or whatever.
He's definitely my designated driver. He's definitely my designated driver for stuff now.
Once more around the parkway.
Hey, James.
Sipping your wine the whole time.
That's right.
Yeah, I've had a pretty average week. Although I will say I kind of came down off of a weekend high. I had a last minute friend invite me to the Bret Michaels Party Gras tour. It turned out that a mutual friend of ours has a handicapped daughter and they could not accommodate them at those seats. So she called me up and she's like, hey, you want this ticket? We're going to, and I'm like, front row, Bret Michaels. I'm not the biggest Bret Michaels fan, but shit, I'll go. So it was Jefferson Starship, a scrub version. I have no idea who was in the band. Maybe there were some old people. So maybe there was an original member. Then you had Night Ranger, who was they're always fantastic. They killed it. And then you had Bret come out with Steve Augeri. I don't know if people know who Steve Augeri is. He used to be the singer in Journey for a hot minute back in the day, I think several years. He did a song or two. And then Mark McGrath, I just want to fly. Yeah, that guy come out. He did a couple songs. And it's more interesting because two of my friends actually play as part of the backup band for Bret Michaels. So Norman and Pete, who are from my hometown neck of the woods. So it was kind of cool seeing them up front. I got to talk to Norm for a hot minute. But other than that, pool's quiet, kids. No more kids shooting down signs. So
I gotta ask, which Bret Michaels song did you stand up and sing to?
We stood the whole time, so I can't quantify. I can't give you an actual answer. Every song we stood up for, because at that point, when you're down that close, nobody's sitting down at that point. That's the lane. If you're sitting and you're front row, you got issues.
That's rude. Yeah. Agreed.
Maybe we'll get Tim to sing a Bret Michaels song during the show. Lindsey, how's your week going?
Oh, the vaping world's on fire with everything. So it's busy. It's going to be busy till November. And then it'll be busy again because I'm sure next year is going to suck statewide or, state legislative. So it's going. Summertime and the living sucks. I mean, when you're in this space, but I mean, you're seeing I think some good headwinds. I mean, the main flavor ban died. I was seeing some of the news stories where they're talking about vaping lung injuries and they're attributing it to THC. So, some baby steps there.
Yeah.
I love how you ask Lindsay how she's doing and she just starts talking about, because that's all we think about 24 hours a day. So how are you, Lindsay? What are you doing for fun?
Oh, I mean, I'm in Florida, so the beach when you can actually get to it and it's not, 107, feeling like it's 107 degrees. It's been a heat advisory for the last week. So
yeah.
Phillip's in Alabama, so he knows what it's like right now.
Yeah,
I am dying. Can confirm. Dead actually last week. Died. Yeah. So it's pre-recorded. Sorry.
Yeah, it was bad today.
It's insane the temperatures. And our man Phillip, how is Phillip's week going?
Let me see.
Deep breath.
Going very well. Allie brought up a lot of important points about children and different points of their development and their Michael is having his white coat ceremony, which is something that they have first year of medical school at UAB on Sunday, and I am just beside myself with I'm so happy for him and elated, and at the same time I just can't help but think, am I that old?
Yeah.
I am that old.
But
what
is the phone frequency time with so because I went from getting a phone call twice to 3 times a week to it steadily becoming maybe once a month. I know it's early so far, but are you getting a steady flow of phone calls
from
your son?
Oh, well, he's my stepson, but he is now back living with his girlfriend, soon to be fiance.
He ain't calling
and
me.
he no. It's actually interesting. I am the one that they can tell certain things to that they would never tell Deirdre, and so my job is to not ever tell anyone. So I cannot divulge these things on the program. Sorry, guys.
Put it in the vault. Put it in the vault.
So the stock line is everyone's great. But I had an interesting experience this morning. Ladybugs. Anybody have a ladybug problem?
Have had them, not currently.
We were running late. Deirdre has to pack up and go to Atlanta for a teach she was doing, and I'm late for a number of things. So coffee, running around, hair's on fire, and I hear from behind me, she's like, "Oh, look, a ladybug." And I said, "Where?" Just freaked out. And this is because many years ago, I dated this wonderful woman who had, I think, thousands of ladybugs in her bedroom wall. And one night, one came out, and then a second. And before you know it, it looked like the Amityville Horror, only ladybugs. And I vacuumed probably 10 Eureka S-Vax worth of ladybugs. And I've not been the same since. So
you probably have really bad luck.
It's supposed to be good luck. I was
going to say.
you should have
that's a little more than enough good luck.
That's what she said. So. Deirdre's like, "It's good luck." I said, "The hell it is." I was really ready for the apocalypse. So anyway, I go get printer paper, index cards, leaves from outside to get this one off the top of the ceiling. It's like 14 feet up there. I'm like, I don't want to do this. Somebody hand me a book. But it went well, and we got it outside, and I am now, my blood pressure is high.
You saved it. Yeah.
But it's just so I just said that on air. So
that's scary.
Moving forward.
I had my brother, this was a few years ago, in his bedroom, and he goes, "God, I keep hearing a freaking buzzing sound." And I'm like, "When?" He goes, "At night. It's horrible, and it's getting louder and louder and louder." Well, he had a nest of wasps built inside between his sheetrock and his wall outside, and they were just in there. There were so many in there, it was ridiculous. And it cost him thousands of dollars to have that wall torn down, taken a stripped down, re-stuccoed, re-sheetrocked, repainted. It was horrible. And he showed me, I wish I had the pictures, but there was just all these wasp nests all inside it, the inside of his house, I was just like,
Oh, hell
nope.
no. Wasps are assholes.
Yeah,
They
they
are.
are.
They
Yeah,
are
can attest to that.
addictive.
Yeah, no, they are.
I'd
But
rather
Mr.
deal with all of that than bed bugs, y'all. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bed bugs,
that
y'all,
is true. That
give me
is true.
wasps, give me a million ladybugs. I'm fine. Do not give me bed bugs.
Yeah, that
It's just
that
you
is
expect
true.
the wasps to
true.
come for you. You don't expect a swarm of ladybugs. This is where I'm coming from. You know?
They had a vendetta.
They knew what you did to their friend, Philip.
What I was kind of thinking, like
Timmy,
they've come back.
you know what time it is, Tim?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wednesday Night Live show. Let's check out the roster from top to bottom, shall we? All right, let's see what happy faces are chiming in this evening. I love that music. Keep it going. Keep it going. Shit. Mallory Gates right out of the gate. Pew, just like a bullet. Every time I'd say that, I think of that Cheech and Chong skit where they're like, class. Everybody know that one? All right, everybody knows what I'm talking about. Pam Spraggins, great to see you. How you been, Pam? It's been a week. It's been too long. Let's see who else is here. I know we got some other bodies in here. Tom Morowitz, wonderful to see you, sir. Always wonderful to see you. I'm spitting on myself. Addie Tooney in the house. Good to see you, Addie. Let's skip past all the hacks in here. Zamplebox, who are they?
That's just me.
Yeah. Hold on. Who else we got? I know I saw James R. James R is in the house. Good to see you, Pirate. And we got Janine Timmons down here. Good to see you, Janine. Wonderful to see you back here. Rog. We got the Pirates in the house. We got both Pirates in the house. We got Rog and James R. And who else we got? I know I saw some other names here. Oh, Peggy at E6 Source is in the house. Good to see you, Peggy. How have you been? And our great friend, Bud South Feather. Why he cuts off the rest of it. You know we're gonna say it, Bud. Go ahead and just add it to your screen name, or do they not give you that many characters? I don't know. Maybe YouTube names are like Twitter, and you only have so many characters. Who's to say? And I think that is it for now, and we'll wrap back up. Oh no, we got Steve Tottenham. Steve,
there you go.
Yeah, there's Steve. And Helena, good to see you. Good to see Helena in here. Hold on, I think that's it. Okay,
Mark, I got it.
You missed
I think
Mark.
you got it, everybody.
That's right, Mark Hart or something. Is that
Mark Sliss?
Oh, it's Mark Sliss. Good to see you, Mark. Come back on the show, Mark. Where you been? Come visit us sometime. Knock on our door. Yeah, come on.
We are going to jump into the interview part with Lindsey here, guys. Anyone that has a question for Lindsey in the chat, just put a Q in there somewhere so we can star it. So this way, if it gets lost in the chat, me and Tim can find it and make sure to bring it back up during the show. So just put a Q is fine enough. Don't write out question. Maybe start the Q and then we know it's a question. And Tim and myself will star it and save it. Lindsey, we're going to start you off with a fun question and a new one. This is a new one because I already did the pizza on pineapple. I think if they want to go see that, they can go see that one. But if you, let's see, where is my question for you? There it is. If you could put any franchise restaurant in your house, what would it be?
Bojangles.
Really?
Yes. That or Big Boy, but definitely Bojangles.
You just walk down your stairs and see.
Yes. Yes, it's bow time, man. I'd be singing it all day long. But if I even looked it up, you need $1 million to start a Bojangles franchise.
I never heard of them.
You need that much, really?
They're out of North Carolina. But this is how good they are. One time I was like in North Carolina for a work trip a few years ago, and there was it was a Popeyes and the Bojangles, and the Bojangles had a line wrapped around its drive-through, and there was nobody at the Popeyes. That's how good it is.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to have to do a research.
It's pretty good.
Confirm.
Is it a Midwestern? Yeah.
Is it a
Midwestern thing?
Nope, it's Southern.
Yeah.
Oh, Southern. Okay.
It's Southern. Yeah. They have them. They used to have one in DC, but they don't have it anymore. Anytime I'm in the Charlotte airport, I go to try and get it, but it's just not as good.
I'm going to have to look
and
them up.
And they're different in different states too. I've noticed it. Like there's different types of gravy depending on what state you're in. Like sometimes it's white gravy, sometimes it's brown gravy. So you never know what you're going to get, quite honestly.
So are you going to be able to walk out of your bedroom door and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at this place?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
breakfast.
okay. Then win. All right, that's the big thing you have to think about because you got to get that breakfast and that lunch and something for dinner.
I think it's very well balanced, but
Yeah.
I mean,
All right, I'm going to hit you with
save
our
as many
serious
fruit
question.
cups.
All right, this is a two-part question for you, Lindsey. Let me make sure I get the right one. You've been doing this for a long time, and I'm sure, like all of us, you've had some good days and bad days. So what keeps you motivated? And what bit of advice would you give someone just getting started in this crazy world of vape advocacy?
Honestly, what keeps me motivated is the fact that like our public health agencies are lying to us. It's like it's really hard not to be like still in the fight when you're seeing, okay, the youth vaping numbers coming out. I mean, I just remember kind of like harassing the Vermont State Health Department because they just kept changing the date on when they were going to do it. And then they had all this data even this year earlier. They weren't giving the data out to state lawmakers while they were, debating on banning, flavors in tobacco and in vapor products. The CDC sat on the data. I mean, you had state health departments that were giving out the data. So and that's what keeps me motivated because somebody's got to be giving these lawmakers data and it's not our health departments doing it. And what was your other question?
What bit of advice would you give someone just getting started?
Keep going and just know that if you're like getting hated by a lot of people, that means you're doing something correct. I mean, if keep harassing them. I always told people, one of the reasons why I did the last e-cigarette analysis is because a lot of the adults aren't really getting brought up in any of the conversations. I mean, you can blame the WHO, who pretty much doesn't let consumers into any of the global tobacco talks, and you're kind of seeing it spread down throughout the countries and states. But like I always go back to Shawshank Redemption and be Andy Dufresne. I mean, that wrote a letter every week, to his state lawmakers. And when he finally, after like several years, finally got a response and they're like, do not contact us anymore, I'm going to write 2 letters. So,
right.
I mean, I will not underestimate harassing your state law. I mean, harass them nicely. Don't get in trouble. Don't get arrested or anything. But, emailing them every single week, calling them. That's what I would do. I mean, I tried to get my ex so I could move into Congressman Raja's district just so I could harass him as a constituent every week, and show up to his offices and be like, well, not only am I a vape person, but guess what? You represent me. I think it's more powerful, and especially you see it all the time from what's coming from the other people have not stopped. The Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids have been saying the developing brain, oh my God, for how long? And they still continue on with it. So we have to continue on with it.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
Allison, you're up.
Well, I mean, you do amazing things all the time. You're constantly putting stuff out for us, which is everything you do is a huge resource. And I do send it to my lawmakers. I do email them all the time and I email them articles and stuff. But I think one of the most valuable things you do is that survey data, because, this is an amazing resource. You click on your state, it brings up a paper that's easy to read. And it's nice looking. It's nice and professional looking. You download it, you print it out, you show up at, your local lawmaker's office and you just put it in their face when they're trying to pass some kind of ridiculous law. That has saved me so many times to have that data on hand, because you cannot find that data anywhere. So I don't know how you do it, but I just, I think it's amazing. And if anybody hasn't checked it out, you should definitely check it out. It makes a great conversation starter if you're trying to, fight for your right to vape in your state. But I think it's awesome. So where do you how long does this take you? I can't even imagine how long it takes you to gather up and put this together.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad people are using it. And you notice that, making it easy to read because it is designed for idiot lawmakers. Sorry, some of my homies that I do appreciate. It depends. The original one from the annual 50 state analyses, the gathering probably takes maybe a week, not even that. It's really hard, especially once you get into a zone. It doesn't even take a week anymore because I already have them all done on spreadsheets. Yeah. So these spreadsheets look like someone's smoking something that they shouldn't be smoking. The e-cig analysis this year was a lot easier to do once I especially got into the zone, and because there was one page and everything, and I was just like, okay, I can copy and paste and just make sure in that one. I would say probably anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, depending on which one I'm doing. And for all of it too, like that's like you gathering the data, putting it, because it goes to gathering the data, then writing it all out into the text part, and then it goes into formatting it, and then like editing. And actually, you got to give a shout out to like the team at TPA and the Consumer Center and my boss David Williams, because we all kind of go through it to make sure that there's no mistakes. And believe you me, there's always mistakes in it. So you see anything you're not going to offend me, if I can go back and fix it, I will go back and fix it. So
well, we appreciate it.
Like someone is using it. So
I use it.
Allie, do you have a follow-up question? Or
no, I mean I'm just amazed. I'm honestly amazed by what Lindsey gets done.
I kind of do have one here. Do you find it sometimes that they're sneaky about some of this data that you're looking for? Do you feel sometimes you really have to go super way out of your way to find this stuff? It's there, but they're not going to help you find it. But they want you to do the legwork, as they say.
Well, they only have data if you go into the national. I get all the data from the CDC's Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System Survey, BRFSS, and it goes back to 95, I think, is where I have data going back to, and it's a really cool survey. I mean, it goes down to everything. It's where I got my demographic data, like for age numbers and getting racial numbers and everything. With e-cigarette data, they only give it for you for 2016, 2017, and 2021, which, screw them, because I mean, and they made this analysis look great, because it's like, well, the last year of data I have is 2017. So look at the 60% increase in the adults who were using vapor products, in Ohio. There were some states that saw tremendous increases just because, well, I can't compare it to 2020.
Right.
But they did ask that data, because I know I stumbled across like Connecticut's, they're like, because they do it in coordination with the state health departments. And so I stumbled across theirs, and they were asking this question, I think back in like 2013 is when they started asking adults about e-cigarette use. And they're also, the CDC has this data. Allison and I don't know, I'll call you Allison. I don't know if I'm supposed to call you Allie or Allison. So what? But we were talking about it, like the CDC, if you go through these questions, so they ask you like, hey, do you smoke? Did you ever smoke? Are you a former smoker? Like how many, if you are a smoker, like do you smoke on some days? Do you smoke every day? Then they'll ask you if you're an e-cigarette user. So the CDC is sitting on data where they can determine how many adults are currently using e-cigarettes that were former smokers. Yeah, they're saying that we don't have the data. BS. They totally have the freaking data. And that makes me so mad that it feels like they're burying it, because it shows the efficacy of these products. And it just brings me back to the crap that the CDC pulled with the eval line. I hate calling it that, but that's what everyone knows it as. I mean, where they were literally sitting on that data, I was getting it from state health departments being like, oh, it's dank vapes. It's THC vapes. Oh, the CDC. Well, the majority, but we're not going to give out the specific numbers. And then they for several months after, and it was a public health travesty. If I was somebody who died from an illicit cartridge, I would have sued the CDC.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would have had my family sue it. Obviously, if I'm dead, I can't do it. But
that's true.
You could haunt them though, which is
haunt the halls of the CDC. Phillip, you're up, buddy.
I absolutely love what you do, because I don't have I have the patience to do it, but let's just say I'm done with my years in stats. Question for you: is there anything? What was the most surprising, if there was any surprising bit of change from the last 50 state analysis you did? Is there a surprising stat in any one state that comes to mind when you think of this most recent one?
The e-cigarette analyses overall, I was really surprised that, I mean, I kind of went in there expecting 18 to 24-year-olds to be like a huge contingent of the people who were using, of all the adults. I was actually really surprised that they did not come out. There's only like one state. It was one of the Dakotas. They made up like 40 or 50%, which was a little bit high. But like on average, they made up a probably, anywhere from like 16 to like 25% or something. And not even that, like the largest contingent that you were getting overall was the 25 to 44-year-olds, which was kind of impressive. And then also when you started looking at that with the adults who smoke cigarettes, it kind of like, made a lot of sense, actually. They are also the ones who smoked at the greatest percentage of all the smokers when you broke it down at age. But I mean, it was just the e-cigarette stuff. It was weird to see some. I mean, some of the states I was surprised that you didn't see a huge increase. Some of them, and then some of them you kind of expected a smaller one. But once again, it was really hard to determine the effects of flavor bans on these because you can't compare them to the years that the flavor ban went into effect. It was from 2017 to 2021. So, and all these kind of went into effect in 2020. But I mean, it was interesting. And I mean, in smoking too, I mean, the one thing that I saw was you only, on average, between 2020 and 2021, smoking rates decreased across all states besides Florida, because I don't have that data, by like 19%. You only saw like 9 states that saw an increase, and like three of those states had flavor bans. And it was actually 3 out of the 4 states that had flavor bans. It was New York, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island saw an increase in smoking rates among young adults from 2020 to 2021. Only New Jersey saw a reduction, but their reduction was way lower than the national average that you saw a reduction. But that's the CDC. It doesn't want to talk about that.
No,
not at all.
no,
Of course certainly not. Well, it's for example, I agree. I was expecting a larger increase actually in the 18 to 24 in Alabama than I saw. But what we have here, 72% of e-cigarette users in Alabama 2021. What we have here, 72%, I guess, as opposed to
what, Alabama. I have to
right. This is the 20. No, so basically, everyone. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you did see an increase, especially when you look at the first graph that you're looking at when you're looking at the e-cigarette analyses. That is the percentage of the 18 to 24-year-olds that are using the e-cigarette products. And then the second graph is of all the e-cigarette users that were all the adults that were using e-cigarettes in 2021. This is their demographics.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I could play up the numbers too. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Stuff. You could sit here and say, when you look at nationally, like Native Americans, like 40% of Native Americans smoke cigarettes. But when you're looking at all the cigarette smokers in 2021, 70% of people who were smoking were white, because that's the population numbers. And that's what I did with the age numbers, because of the age, like that was actually kind of the scary thing, was actually pulling age demographic numbers and seeing how much 18 to 24-year-olds are decreasing and 65 plus are increasing. So, hey, millennials, watch out for your Social Security.
Yeah, 1 in 4.
What is that? What is Social Security?
But no, I think it's like Allison said, it's very, very accessible, easy to read, and most of all, it's an incredible resource. And I also I'm curious. So you think is there one trend that you're seeing above anything else that is encourages you at all about the way in which perhaps I know it's dreadful how many older adults are smoking as opposed to vaping?
That's increasing. That was actually scary. Pretty much every state saw an increase in 65 plus.
Yeah. And that's
and I don't know if it's just because there's more 65 plus year olds or something, which I think it's more of that, which is, again, that's scary.
I know. Yeah. Context is everything. I'm with you. And plus let's just say that you can, numbers do what you want them to do when you're really motivated. I get that part. But on the level, if there's one encouraging trend you saw, what would you say it is?
18 to 24-year-old smoking's being eradicated completely. And it does start literally in 2014. And that's where you just see the shooting down on it. So even, if you put it together, you're going to see an increase of 18 to 24-year-olds vaping. I still think if we did the numbers, then maybe if I ever got time, I would go through all the numbers and sit there and see, if you're seeing actually an increase in overall tobacco and vape users, because I hate putting vape as a tobacco product, but that's what it's kind of classified as.
So do I.
I still think even the number of 18 to 24-year-olds that you're seeing that are using e-cigarettes is still less than the numbers of kids who are using cigarettes in 2020. Or not 2020, in 2010. Especially when you start looking at these, like the one graph that I did with you break it all down by age. I mean, 18 to 24-year-olds are smoking at a lower percentage than 65 plus in 2021.
Yeah. Timmy.
Well, I guess that leads me to a bit of a follow-up question. What's your personal analysis as to why you see such a dramatic drop in 18 to 24 smoking? Like, what's the mechanism behind that? Is that just awareness from their perspective, or they found other fatty things to move on to?
I think it's three-part. I think I know there was a paper done that they said one of the greatest reduction that, one of the biggest things going to determine if you actually do smoke is whether your parents smoke. So you're seeing a reduction of people smoking on that one, kids are less likely to grow up in a smoking household, so they're less likely to smoke. You're seeing the reduction and prior to it, but I do think the introduction of different technologies has really made the cigarette obsolete. I mean, and actually, I just read a study that was done among California kids that were in juvenile, and actually these kids, I mean, they're bad kids. Okay. They're in juvie. Okay. And they were in California. They weren't in Texas. They didn't go to juvie for a THC vape. And they actually were 92% of them were I don't like cigarettes. I mean, so I think with the advent of something that is completely not a cigarette, I think that, if I was a kid right now and hanging out with the bad kids doing something, I think I'd be more likely to vape than I'd be smoking a cigarette.
Sure. Yeah. No, I just had me thinking. And do you see any correlation in the numbers around teen, or dare I say teen, with youth who vape in correlation similarly to cigarettes to a household that is vaping as well? Do you find that there's a direct correlation in those numbers as well? Because obviously you have different age.
That would be they don't really ask that question. Some surveys did, but I know that one did ask about their families. That survey didn't even really ask that much about cigarettes. They asked more about vaping. This juvenile California one. And I didn't share it because me and Skip were kind of we didn't really want to bring a lot of attention to it. But they asked about if their parents had done substances. And over half of them, their parents had done substances. And I think they put tobacco, but they also, no, it was substances except marijuana. So they didn't even include cigarettes.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
But actually, what you're seeing on vaping too, when I was looking at one of the survey characteristics, I want to say it was Vermont and stuff. It was still over 70% of the kids who were vaping got D's and E's and F's or whatnot. So once again, these are the same kids who were going to be using cigarettes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Troublemakers.
I was a good
little
kid.
boy.
I was a good troublemaker, but I always made honor roll. Okay, my parents were like, you can,
All right,
you ready
for your next fun question?
Sure.
What is the one band or musician you would love to party with?
Alive or dead?
Live or dead? It don't matter. We'll bring them back.
Oh God. Honestly, you're gonna hate this one, and the only reason that Tchaikovsky, I can't pronounce his name, Tchaikovsky, just because I want to figure out how the hell he decided we're gonna put cannons into this guy. I mean, that would be a fun question to go ask him. The really party with, oh God, probably Janis Joplin.
Janis Joplin. You may survive. You may survive.
I don't know. Actually, she'd be that much fun to party with, though. I mean, sometimes we should be a little bit, kind of feeling herself.
Yeah.
I think
if she came back right now, she'd really be into that fentanyl stuff. Shouldn't joke about that right now, but.
Oh, man. With all the time you spent involved with people in this community and industry, who is someone that checks off all the right boxes for you when it comes to advocacy? I know I'm putting you on the spot picking one person, but I think we all have one person that we just are just amazed by all the work and effort put into the trying to save this industry and community, other than
God,
yourself.
I'm biased, man, because I
Yeah.
get to work with her every day. I'm gonna say Skip Murray. I mean, because she's so freaking like, and she's so kind and everything. Like
Yeah.
all of her frustration, you never really see it, and she's had to deal with like a lot of stuff. And I'm still always impressed that she hasn't lashed out on anybody yet. And she's been so steadfast in it too. Like
Yeah.
Skip's done, and everything that she's done too. She did like the PMT sharing group. I mean, like helped keep everybody sane. And she was so much of a saint too. We even offered to like help her do her PMTA. We're like, hey, she's like, nope, I couldn't take it for free when all these other people can't afford it. And I was just like, good for you. I mean, so yeah, I think she
That's awesome.
exemplifies the and being the good kind. I think Greg Connolly does a good job taking names and kicking butt. I mean, I think there's got to be a multiple prong approach. And that's why I really do appreciate like Skip at the TPA Consumer Center team. And we got Martin Cullup on there too, because I think we all make a really good team. Like he's snarky. I got stats and data. And here's Be Kind Skip Murray coming around and everyone out.
You are
Nice.
absolutely right. The triad right there, that is the right mix on any day. Bravo.
Yeah.
And yes, Skip is a miracle in so many ways.
Yeah, we enjoyed having her on the show. We need to get her back on. We're going to get her back on. Allie, you're up, sweetie.
Okay. So what is next for you? I know that, you're really focused on the fentanyl stuff, which is great since now, they're accusing vapes of, having fentanyl and poisoning children and everything else. So like, is that what your main focus is now, is to try to uncover more of that stuff, or what's your next project look like?
Well, TPA is hosting a Good Cop, Bad Cop in November in Panama City, Panama. So it's going to be fun. We are like, it's going to be small. It's going to be like a war room. We're getting a bunch of experts globally. We've got people from India. We got some guys from
Nice.
Africa. Yeah, I know Uganda's in there. We got Roberto is going to be out there working on finalizing all of these. So I'm working on that one right now to counter. For people who don't really understand it, since like 2003, the WHO has had the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, or the FCTC, and every other year they do this conference of the parties. And so this year they're doing COP10 in Panama, and all eyes are kind of on it because they've delayed regulating novel tobacco and vapor products, including, e-cigarettes, heated tobacco, nicotine pouches. So, and if you know anything about the WHO's tobacco program, you know that it's pretty much fronted by Michael Bloomberg. So, nanny state prohibitionist. So just making sure, and they keep consumers out. They also keep any of the industries out, which I mean, I understand, kind of like big tobacco having, a really bad name. But I mean, honestly, I call them kind of like, they're treated like the pedos of the regulatory industry. It's like, they've already done their time. They keep paying the price. I mean, you show me another industry that's done way worse damage than tobacco, that's had to deal with, this regulatory thing. And it's really sad to see that, the way it's big tobacco that can respond better to the consumer demands and offer them a safer product than the government. So that's the big project right now. As always, the next 50 state analyses. Bloomberg is also doing some stuff on petrochemicals, so we're dabbling into that a little bit. I will be doing some stuff on the fentanyl vapes just to get some of the alarmism out. I've been working on this op-ed right now. It's just that one, especially where you're seeing where it's coming from.
If you need any help with that, I'm here. Please.
Oh, I already know about this. I mean, I've been talking about fentanyl vapes for a while because of the argument, and I've been loose about it because I didn't want to sow the confusion up about, oh, they're coming after you for your kids and all these fentanyl vapes. The only thing that I've actually seen where it's been verified that there was fentanyl in this vape was from 2019 during the eVali thing. DEA confiscated it, and it was like in a drug house where they had pounds of fentanyl. I've reached out to the DEA to get information on what type of device this was, but it's definitely before disposables. But don't get me wrong. I do think with the adulterated cartridges, the THC cartridges that you're buying off the street and everything, that there could be something in there that you could have a really bad reaction to, but don't tell me it's fentanyl.
It's certainly not fentanyl. But the question is, the one you said during eVali, was that a fatal, an overdose?
Yeah,
Or was
the guy died, and they came in, and the guy was like, "Yeah, he vapes fentanyl," and they're like, "What?" And then I mean, the DEA issued a bulletin, and so like, I mean, I've always used this argument about, if you start pushing everything into an unregulated market, when everything's unregulated, then you do have incidences where something bad could happen because you have no regulations over it. But doing this to like, I mean, the fentanyl disposable stuff is just now ridiculous because all they're doing is like it's one particular brand that wants market share. I mean, and using government to knock out your competition, I'm sorry, it's un-American.
Yep.
At least in my book.
Yeah.
Well, if I may,
Go
anyone
ahead,
who's
Phil.
anyone who's been following the quote unquote science on fentanyl and how fentanyl breaks down as a drug, as a chemical, and how it is most effectively used by those who want to get that most, the most out of the high. To vape fentanyl is a form of harm reduction. It is considered to be the, I guess, safest manner, and to use it in a commercial vape, yeah, you could. The it would have to be entirely intentional, and the possibility that people are putting it in disposable, it's absurd. But the most
I don't think
important,
you can do it in a disposable. I don't think it gets hot enough or any.
right. It disintegrates at such a low temperature. All right. For example, smoking it's almost useless. You might as well throw it away. And vapes are, some are so low in terms of, their overall temperature, their limit, that you can get, a high off of it, but it's extraordinarily innocuous. And in terms of fentanyl, the dangers of fentanyl use, it has, let's just say, vaping fentanyl is a non-issue altogether. It really is. And to say that people are, spiking fentanyl or spiking vapes with fentanyl, and kids are getting a hold of them. Yeah, that's
companies
ridiculous.
are doing it. Yeah, I mean, Chinese companies are. I mean, Allie and I went. Allie had me go down some really wonky vapes today and stuff. I mean, Chinese companies, especially the disposables too, they don't need to put fentanyl in it. I mean,
yeah, and Pablo Escobar was known
so
for
many.
giving away all of his coke too.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Chinese
Yeah.
is really big on giving stuff away, free drugs to everyone.
No, I do think that there's chemicals though in the THC vapes, and I think that's more. And actually, that's what's really kind of. I know when the lung injuries were happening in 2019, I did read that vaping THC was actually one of the better ways for you to consume it. If you were gonna have it be in a smokable type of way, because smoking marijuana is really bad for you. I mean, they've got color changing bowls that should show you how much tar comes out of bud, but that vaping, the THC vaping really screwed that up, from that perspective, because these illicit ones are pretty bad for you, but it is safer for you to vape.
Right. Make sure you got clean COAs. Scan that QR code and check that COA. Make sure it's good to go.
check the URL
keep
too.
that receipt. Keep that receipt.
I just like go back to the 70s. Trust your source. Trust your dude. I mean, some guys offering. I just remember in the height of Evali, somebody did it was like the summer. It was right before Evali, and it was like December 2019. Somebody's offering me like cartridges for like $5 a cart, and then they were going on the street for about like $30 a cart. And I was like, "There's something wrong with those ones." Man.
What'd you cut this with?
And it was in Illinois, and I was not
THC cart.
Illinois was like, the THC carts. I was at a bowling alley, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, you like these?" And I was like, those are too cheap, man. And here comes August. It was like, and Illinois was up there. I was like, I bet you I know. Like,
it's that guy.
I write it down. The time that Lindsey said no.
Best decision she made.
Well done.
Timmy, you're up, Timmy. I have something for Philip. I have to put up on the screen here, just for you, Philip.
Oh God.
Oh Jesus, John.
I'm used to I'm used to the spiders and the snakes sort of thing. You'd be the first person in history I've ever met that has an inane fear of ladybugs, but I digress.
So you want to poke fun at me too, huh, Timmy?
I find it
I hate
interesting.
them.
I
hate
find
them.
I
I'm
find
with you.
that I find that about as interesting as when I hear somebody say they don't like strawberries. I've
I
met
think it's
multiple people that
anti-Semitism.
don't
You
like.
guys hate
I
Jewish
don't know
people.
if it's a red thing. I don't know if it's red or what, but maybe they're.
No,
It's
it
just,
had to do with the 25,000 that came out of the
Yeah, that would
tiny
freak
hole
me out,
behind the
dude.
bed
But-
while I was in it, and the I don't know, the 2 days of vacuuming that it took to get rid of them, and how many got in my mouth in the process. Tim, that's
you
what
should have
did
made
it.
that a TV episode. I would have loved to have seen that one. Anyway, question to Lindsay. So obviously you spend a lot of time putting a lot of numbers together, obviously not for your own personal reading, and people here would be interested in those numbers because obviously we want to see values that favor us, right? Yes, oh, this isn't an epidemic, or you can see, spots that kind of prove our point that why vaping is effective and what it's ultimately used for. I guess my bigger question is legislators, lawmakers, they tend to sort of like turn their nose up or ignore information that might be against their narrative. Have you to date seen any, and it doesn't matter on what level, it could be at the federal level or it could be at the local or state level. Have you seen any of them read any of your publishings and maybe raise an eyebrow a little bit and be an honest person and go, maybe this isn't as bad as it's being made out? Because we are constituents as much as other people are. I mean, why not support us a little bit?
I've had a couple of them actually listen to me this year, which was, actually I kind of like that. That was actually surprising. After 8 hours, they all turned to listen to me.
Yeah.
And if anything, though, and no, I've had a couple of them rebut me. Actually, this year, and I had CTFK rebut me. Every hearing I testified on, I had somebody which was trying to deny everything that I was saying.
That's the easy way out, right? I mean, because don't they just twist the number to make it favor them, to make it look worse than it really is, when really you're sort of putting out more honest numbers? Like, no, this is what the number really is translated to. You can flip it on its lid and make it look, 10 times worse if you want to, but there's some factual information here. Obviously, I would think they'd want to rebut you just because you're blowing their theory clean out of the water, right?
Yeah, and they try to rebut me. I was an American Lung Association guy. I was like, oh, you hear these tobacco lobbyists come in. First of all, dude, I'm not a lobbyist. I work at a think tank. Okay, I get it straight.
Yeah.
Secondly, he brought up like COVID, and it's like, oh, well, and I'm just like, okay, the next hearing I go into, I'm just going to introduce that to oh, by the way, you can use this data because there was more kids doing this, after COVID than before COVID.
Right.
So you can't tell me that we had less kids in here, and this is why these numbers don't, add up on it. So, I mean, I think that's why too, that we didn't get the numbers as quickly as we, as they came out, in previous years this year, was because the CDC knew that they were going to have a lot of state battles, and there was a huge reduction. And also
Right.
better questions too. The one thing that they really, with this data, that really upsets me that they do not listen into is the 43.4% of youth in 2021 that cited using e-cigarettes because they were feeling anxious, stressed, or depressed.
Yeah.
And then going through these numbers on mental health and everything, and there's a massive increase, and this has been increasing before e-cigarettes came out, so you can't even blame nicotine. If anything, well, they're using less nicotine and they're more depressed. So if there's our causation right there. Give them your kids nicotine, but not really. When you're going after a flavor ban, if it's only 13% of kids using e-cigarettes are citing flavors, and almost half of them are citing them feeling because they're anxious, or depressed and stuff, you need to be addressing that.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
at this point, your kids are self-medicating, and they're just going to they're going to set themselves down for a path that they're going to start self-medicating with things that are far worse than a flavored vape.
Right.
That's
Okay.
maddening. Yes.
We have a question from the chat. Space Turtle 1. My question is why the EU blocked from seeing the Taxpayers Protection Alliance website.
I have no idea. That's a good question. I guess well, I don't know.
Ooh.
Like that, Martin's never mentioned that, and Martin's in the UK.
Yuka has mentioned a couple of times there are different. I don't know. There are certain regulations and I guess competing companies that you can't access this, that, and the other. I don't know why specifically, but there are workarounds available. You just have to talk to Mr. Kilavori.
What specific country is that too? So I can put it on my company's radar, so they know about that.
Yeah, Space Turtle 1, if you got an answer. And then the second question from Steve. I can barely see this. Since so many people have switched to vaping, has the 480,000 deaths a year dropped yet?
I mean, I don't know. It should have. I mean, it really should have. But you have an increase. I think over. I don't know if I did the numbers correctly. I think there was a slight increase in the actual number of adults who were smoking, though, especially with that 65 plus increasing as much as it did. So, that's a good question, actually. Like, how many people actually still are dying from cigarettes? I don't think they've have asked. I don't think the CDC's actually updated that.
It's going to take a long time to get a better idea of what that number is doing, and more importantly, I think
you can't tell us how many people died from COVID. Okay,
right? Well, I mean, we have a population that is ever climbing, and I think that the 480,000 is probably a little on the high end of the spectrum anyway. But nonetheless, that is a good question.
Yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready, Lindsay? Are you ready for this one? You can say no, okay? You don't have to do this, but we would appreciate it if you would. The first song you remember singing all the words to as a teenager, and can you sing a few bars of it?
As a teenager?
Yeah, your first song. We used to do the.
I mean, I could do the first song that me and my siblings used to do.
Go for it. We'll go for that one.
Alabama, I'm in a hurry to get things done. Rushing till life's no fun. All I really gotta do is live and die. I could sing a lot better, actually. I just sang it last weekend. My brother's a musician. If I'm drunk enough, I'll actually get on stage with him and sing it. So.
We'll see you in 2 weeks with a couple bottles in the mail. That sounds great.
And this is a new one that was added by the lady up there, Allison. What is the best piece of advice you have ever been given?
I didn't listen to it, but no, don't get married. Don't get married until you're 30.
No one listens to that one.
The lady was so smart on that one. Your life changes a lot in your 20s. But I'm 34. My life's still changing a lot. So, probably that would probably be good. I don't know. My mom, always be able to look yourself in the mirror in the next morning. Some days it's been hard. Okay, I mean, but
Yeah, Allie. Go ahead, Allie.
Well, okay, so I want to talk a little bit about this article that you recently wrote.
All right, which one, Allie? So I can pull it up.
Article.
Okay.
Nicotine.
The misperceptions of nicotine.
Yeah, and that ABC article pissed me off. So
yeah. I figured as much. So you cite, global study where, obviously they have wrong, ideas about vaping and its safety, and I know I kind of witnessed that firsthand with my doctor. It took me about a year to convince her that vaping was safer, and I'll tell you, giving her Dr. Colin Mendelssohn's book really helped, and if you guys don't know, that's free right now. Just gotta plug that real quick. But I think it is hard. And do you think, on the doctor's side of it, do you think it's the information that they're being given and they're not just digging deeper to find out, and they're just not curious about it because it doesn't affect them? Or do you think that, they just are lying, straight up just lying because that's what everyone else is the FDA and the CDC are saying about vaping?
I think they're just idiots that don't do enough research on themselves. I mean, the public health trade associations, which, by the way, everybody, if that's what you should be referring to, the ALA and the AAH and all of those, their trade associations, I think this demonization of nicotine is so prevalent that, they're just assume that it's bad because that's all they're hearing is negative stuff and it's youth vaping in the developing brain, that they don't do any of their research on it to see that. And then also, I think goes back to the stigma that Skip always talks about with people who smoke too, that they don't really care about the people who smoke, let alone to even care about getting them to something that's safer because, they're just, and it's big tobacco. So I think it's just this pervasive, because I don't remember when I first got started too, that this demonization of nicotine really just kind of picked up over the past few years. Back in 2016, it wasn't that bad. And even in 2019, it was mostly flavors. It wasn't nicotine. So I think that I think they mean well. I think with the doctor's study that I use in that, the one thing that was hopeful, I don't talk about it in the op-ed because there's only so many words you can get in there, but like 80% of them were interested in, helping people quit smoking and they were interested in learning more about less harmful alternatives. It's just really hard when they're members of these public health trade associations that already have this idea about vaping products and that they're not, because the AAH, when the stuff that they were citing or whatnot. And I love how ABC News called it the American cardiology, whatever thing. And it's like, no, that if you go to the actual study, this is American Heart Association, is the first one on this thing. And that, they don't see any efficacy. Even studies might show that these might be, better than nicotine replacement therapy. We have no long-term data. And it's like,
yes, you do.
Get off this stuff. I think it's this pervasive stuff. Yeah, I do think it starts with the Bloomberg funded public health trade associations.
Yeah. My doctor did say there's an internal database that where they get fed information, and she's like, I've never seen any of the things that you've shown me. And I'm like, of course you haven't.
I think it's the AMA in a lot of ways, as my father would often like to say, as a practitioner. You have a lot of extremely caring and knowledgeable doctors out there. When you get an organization that quote unquote represents doctors, a doctor is a wonderful thing. An organization that represents them can do more harm than anything else. And I think the American Medical Association consistently feeds them, well, let's just see that which is most likely to sound like they're doing something, that needs to be done, and well, they have to appear that way. And the other thing is, in a very litigious world, that they are very, very reluctant to recommend. Let's just say it's not the doctors that aren't recommending vapes that make me extremely disappointed. It's the ones that are actively telling people that they are as harmful as cigarettes, because that is a breach of everything having to do with medical ethics. Because if you're not comfortable with the base of knowledge that we have about the long-term effects of vaping to recommend them, I can live with that. But to tell people to stop vaping because it's just as harmful as smoking, that is medical.
What do we mean long-term effects? I'm so sick of that crap. Okay, I mean, you pretty much when they were coming out no,
settle down. Settle down. I feel you.
They have 60 years of evidence. No, they had 5 years of evidence. Okay, we've got over a decade of evidence proving that these are safer products. These are less harmful.
It makes my ass pucker too, Lindsay. I understand.
I mean, when you smoke a cigarette, there is damage pretty much immediately. Yes, it takes a lot for it to turn into lung cancer. Maybe it depends on who the hell you are, actually. Yeah. I mean, you could have 100 people smoking. Not every single one of them is going to actually have adverse effects from it, actually. Right. But so I mean, I'm so sick of that long term and the article that the argument.
But a doctor who's let's just say a doctor who is extremely uninformed or naive to all this.
Dr. Stan Glantz.
He's not naive. I think the oath would dictate that you don't say anything in that respect. It's just you don't have an opinion, as opposed to make a health recommendation to stop doing one thing, which is likely to result in something that there is no that I know of more lethal consumer product anywhere ever. So that being said, I feel you on the long-term effects. Okay, they actually could never ever be half as bad as combustible tobacco. But at the end of the day, it's if you speak to doctors intelligently about nicotine and vaping, I think they're very receptive as a general rule. When you speak at associations that aren't truly professional associations, they're just paying dues. You just everyone's a member. That's they're the worst. But I also think maybe we waste a bit of time yelling at them when we need to be speaking to the individual doctors within that organization. That's what I'm saying. And yeah, it infuriates me too. But I'm 48 years old. I can't allow myself to become that riled up because, well, consequences.
Hard as
Something can happen, and then they'll blame it on your vape. So you need to
blame on
exactly. I am not going out in any way. Trust me, the house will be clean.
I always wondered if we had a bunch of people that stood out in front of a hospital and questioned every doctor that came into the hospital for work, whether vaping was better than smoking. What do you think the percentages would be?
I think it'd be around the same as the doctor's survey, about like 60%. Think that what is it,
as he's vaping, he tells you no.
Well, I would say it depends on specialty. You're probably going to get the most vape haters in the oncology department, unfortunately. But I would say that I'm encouraged by the numbers. In terms of GPs and family doctors who are at least well aware that vaping is far less dangerous than smoking.
Right, but don't you think they could be a little bit selective to the crowd that they actually might even recommend that to? Meaning, I don't believe they need to full stop stand up and say vaping is perfectly okay for you. But if they've got a patient who is a 2 or 3 pack smoker, or even one for that matter, is seeing a general decline in their overall health because they continue to smoke. And I mean, let's be realistic. A doctor can't make you do one thing or the other. That's completely your choice to do what you choose to do. Now, he might be critical and be like, okay, well, here we go. You look like you got COPD now, and then we're going to have to start. You think that they would be somewhat selective about the crowd to which they say maybe a little bit more favorable language about vaping, and say, for you might want to try vaping as a way to help you quit smoking, because it could be, hey doc, I no matter what I do, I try. My wife, she sucks. The kids are a mess. My job. Well, I'm saying everybody's got a life that they don't particularly enjoy all the time. Some of us have angelic lives. I mean, it's whatever.
I'm sorry, Tim. I thought you said my wife sucks. That's why I said.
I thought you were about to sing that police song. My wife has burned the scrambled eggs.
I mean,
just my leg.
Maybe her last name is Hoover. I don't know.
I think that's one of the most important points you can make. I agree with you, Tim. It's who you're speaking to, and it's not necessarily a recommendation. What makes me more angry than anything are doctors that will flat out say you should stop vaping to former smokers. And vaping has only come up a handful of times with my GP and I, because he knows full well that I have my health has made extraordinary. My everything about my respiratory health has improved since I quit smoking a ton 13 years ago, and he knows that. But what I'm saying is, who the doctors should only get into this conversation with people who smoke. If someone is using a form of harm reduction, then if they want to ask, how do I stop using patches or vapes or snus or whatever? Well, you can give that recommendation. Otherwise, it's not a conversation that necessarily needs to be had.
Well, right, and I mean, what also shocks me from the medical perspective is these people have patients that they directly work with on a regular basis. People that go and see them for multiple conditions. I mean, you would think if they're aware that a patient of theirs has transitioned to vaping to combat a chronic smoking habit that they've had for decades, the evidence is right in front of their eyes. Case in point, like you said he's aware because your health has seen an improvement over time by transitioning to vaping. And so that's what bothers me the most, is that they even still reject it when they see that their patients are having an improved effect on their lives. Now, whether he chooses to say, hey, you might want to consider moving to a point of cessation from vaping, then that's an opinionated thing, right? He's not really coming from a place of evidence, because they ignore the evidence. They would rather just sort of look at sort of probably subsets of data that state, well, nicotine is not necessarily always good for you, and then putting these particular chemicals into your system is not particularly good for you. So from a doctor's point of view, I would say maybe you want to consider now thinking about cessating from vaping, and get, but at least acknowledge the fact that this one particular product has created a big turnaround in their health journey, because some of us I've met multiple people in my life that have been told, hey, you got to quit smoking, man. You're going to die if you continue this. Unfortunately, those people chose not to quit, and they're not with us anymore. And it's not like they were ignorant to vaping either. They just chose not to engage, which blows my mind a little bit.
You have
but
to
whatever.
though.
Go
You
ahead.
have to wanna
No, go
quit.
ahead, Allie.
No,
Go ahead.
I was just saying you have to want to quit. I've seen that with customers that come in, especially older customers. Like they don't want to quit smoking. They just
Absolutely
want
true.
to.
Yeah, we need the heat, not burn.
Right. They just don't, they're just not ready to give it up. So it's in the mindset too, but you have to at least be open to the idea of trying. I've seen people, like older people, like their kids drag them in, like in their 30s, and they're like, look, you're getting older, you're sick, you need to switch. And that's also a turn off as well, because nobody wants to be forced into doing something,
Sure.
But that was more what I saw on my end, was the hesitancy was that I like to smoke. I don't give a shit. What happens.
I loved smoking.
I think people should have the right to smoke. But when you have mass messaging that says vaping is hazardous to your health, and that is, that's the message to everyone, you have smokers who would otherwise be interested in asking questions, who are just going to go ahead and say, well, there goes that idea. So I do think that, with internists and general practitioners, two doctors in my family, they both know they never had to actually think about as to whether or not this was far less harmful than smoking, because nothing approaches the harm of cigarette smoking.
Yeah.
Well, I think that doctors who are, how shall I say this? Yeah, the few loud ones that are condemning vaping to those who used vaping to stop smoking, I think those are the ones that are maddening, but I also think they're loud as opposed to the norm, as opposed to the exception. I think I think doctors as a whole, they understand that vaping is a solution to smoking, and they mostly don't want to get sued, but most of them at the very least would not tell someone who vapes instead of smokes to stop vaping. It's just as bad. And the ones who do, well, they should have their licenses revoked. Yeah. Anyway,
I got a question for you, Allie, real quick.
Yeah.
How do you respond to people that it's 2023, everyone's a conspiracy nut? How do you respond to those people that call us conspiracy nuts? Like, Bloomberg can't be this evil. Your stats is off. Everything's wrong with you're saying, popcorn lung, all that stuff. How do you address that when someone calls us conspiracy nuts?
Well, I mean, I will. When I was in the stores, it was kind of new before I moved out of the retail storefront. I didn't have that a lot. I did have studies that debunked popcorn lung and stuff printed out. So if someone came in and asked me about it, I could hand them the information so they could read it and understand it. And they'd ask questions while they were looking over it. nowadays with the staff, we do have, you know, a lot of resources that we use like internally for information. And like we have a Trello board that's just misinformation and, you know, debunked stuff. And every single tab has, you know, an easy to read printable that they can print out in the store study. So if somebody comes in with a, you know, particular concern, they can see it from a legitimate health source that's debunking that with a study attached to it, which does help. But I mean, in the beginning, people were telling me you're doing a great thing for people. You quit smoking. What you're doing is amazing. Like, and now people look at me like I'm just peddling nicotine to kids. Like
the earth is flat.
I mean, for fuck's sake, I
Got
can't be
the
on my
vape highlighter.
It really is a horribly discouraging thing.
I can't even be on the board for my kids' band because of what I do for a living. Like I'm coming in with a fucking trench coat lined with disposables for the kids or something. Like that has absolutely nothing to do with the parent that I am and everything to do with, you know, just who I am as a person. I'm not bringing that to marching band practice.
That's horrifying, but it's also not surprising.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it, Lindsay? When we're, you know, you're
I work for Big Tobacco. What do you mean?
Actually, you're the only one who doesn't work for Big Tobacco. I just signed up. Sorry.
I have not gotten my check yet.
I mean, I've been working at a think tank for since 2016 now. I'm living in Okaloosa County, trying to meet men and trying to explain what a think tank is. That's
you need to come up here right now, yo. Okay, all right. Don't stop looking down there. I can help you here.
I mean, I haven't really. Actually, I don't really get a lot of people coming after me. I mean, the only one is Tahir. And you know, and then I mean, obviously, I'm just pissing Tahir off because he keeps commenting. I don't comment on any of his stuff, and half the time I don't even respond to him. I just keep doing it because I know what I'm doing is not like nobody was giving out the numbers. That's all I'm doing is doing the numbers. I mean, and like, hey, this is how many people smoke in any particular state. That's how many people use vaping products.
They're like, hey, you were not supposed to let people know.
I get this. This is what I get from a majority of people that I run into that call me a conspiracy nut. And the reason they contribute the dollars that are being spent on the other side for research to what we're throwing out there. They're equating that billions of dollars and millions and maybe billions of dollars are being spent to prove that vaping is so bad for us. And here we are, this small group trying to fight that. And they're just saying that research has to be better than whatever we're putting out there.
I don't know, but no, there's still money in vaping. It's just not aggregated. Okay.
Right.
I mean,
there's money in everything.
There's probably more money and with Big Tobacco and Big Vape than what Bloomberg could ever even hope to put out. But the problem is they're just not putting it out, and we don't have the same messaging. They're not putting it out there.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we don't have the same messaging either. When I go to state hearings, like I hear the same thing over and over and over coming from CTFK, American Lung Association, all of those ones. They're all saying the same thing. And it makes sense why they're winning right now. Because if you're sitting there as a lawmaker in a hearing for 10 hours, what are you coming out and listening to? I'm going to be paying attention to the thing that was just drilled into my freaking head for 8 hours, you know, developing brain, popcorn lying and everything. So I mean, we all need to get into the messaging. I mean, even now you're seeing some of these bigger companies that want to drop tobacco out of tobacco harm reduction, and it's like, okay, like let's confuse them and even more people. Like, so what really pissed me off about the fentanyl vapes too is like, where were these big companies?
Say it again. Somebody won't. So you're saying that there are organizations that are now wanting to change tobacco harm reduction to what?
Harm reduction.
Well, it is harm reduction. It simply happens to be a specific area of harm reduction, which unfortunately gets only 1/1,000,000th of the attention it desperately needs. It's a good question, and the conspiracy theorists, I have felt extremely challenged by the whole idea of how can I come across as anything other than a conspiracy theorist today when I'm talking to these people who don't vape, don't smoke, don't have any
That's what they trust the CDC. I mean,
I'm sorry.
best thing that asked them if they trust the CDC. COVID was probably the best thing that happened for THR as far as kind of showing out the fallacy that's in our public health agencies and responding to a crisis, which was COVID. I mean, I don't trust anything. I didn't trust the CDC after the Valley stuff. I mean, that was like what really kind of got me, where it's like, you guys have an agenda at this point. This is not public health. There's something going on behind. I mean, I still think the CDC sat there in August of 2019 and was like, yes, people are finally dying from e-cigarettes. We're going to run with it.
Yeah.
But that comes back to the whole thing. We need to do something.
Yeah.
That idea that these organizations, we need to do something. And that is our very, very ideologically biased sort of, way to do things. And that is unfortunately certain governments that we have. But I think my most successful efforts to change minds have always been through not bringing CDC or Bloomberg or any of that into it, not giving it a name, speaking about how difficult, truthfully, it was for me to come to understand how ideologically based a lot of these messages are. Yes, they are indeed lying, and they think they're lying for a cause that's righteous, because they are how shall I say this? They are incapable, and they will never, ever allow themselves to be found out wrong or even slightly. They will not, they will spend the rest of their lives trying not to lose that argument, period. As opposed to money or this or that or some greater thing.
Actually,
it's just that simple.
About money. I really do think that it is about money. I think that there's a lot of money to be made in selling cigarettes that the states get, and the states rely on it. And I think there's mostly a lot of money to be made in treating smoking related illnesses. And I'll always tell people that, say what you want to say about big tobacco. The FDA doesn't approve big tobacco. The FDA approves big pharma all the freaking time. And I always call big tobacco like they're like toddlers on the regulatory playing field, where big pharma are the guys with the cigars in their mouth and the smoking rooms, behind the scenes.
So would you say that Bonnie Halpern Fisher and the Stanford Tobacco Toolkit, science research team, would you say that their motivations are financial, monetary gain?
Have you ever looked at any of the trade associations' money that's coming in?
I have.
Yeah, where's it coming from?
Gosh.
Well, a lot of it, I looked at the American Heart Association, and a lot of that, about 60% was coming from big corporations.
Big corporations.
But those people were already funding, the research into, whatever, condemning smokers and smoking, etc. But I think that their relevance and
but they're not doing anything to, like, if we really wanted to get people to quit smoking, you would in America, the only state that you've seen introduce one of the age restriction bills, and it's like, if you weren't born, after 2000 or whatnot, you can't buy any tobacco products. Guess who didn't show up to that hearing? None of the people who showed up to flavor ban hearings. Because they don't really want to eradicate the actual cigarettes. I mean, they keep them still on the market. If you really wanted to, like, they always bring up, this is the only consumer good that can be out there to be sold. Then why aren't you trying to, like, prohibit it completely? Yeah. Even prohibition, they've always sat there and said about prohibition. One of the things that alcohol prohibition that they've talked about is that it might have actually worked if they had just kept it with liquor. If they had kept beer and wine available, we might actually would still be under, like, liquor prohibition. But it was that all or nothing that really screwed it all over. They're not even doing all or nothing. They're literally just blocking, and honestly, even the menthol stuff, they didn't start getting into menthol till later on. I mean, that's a new one for them now.
Yeah.
Menthol's been around for the past 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, you have to question it when the FDA is approving low nicotine cigarettes, giving an MGO to a low nicotine cigarette, but denying everything that's not made by big tobacco, who is already paying them user fees. Which we are not, by the way. So
go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, we don't want to get user fees. Yeah, I mean, if you bring on user fees, you got to authorize us first.
That's what I mean. If you approve us, but
And when user fees come into the conversation, that's usually when I've lost whomever I'm talking to about the subject, because I've gone off the trail. But I agree with you, and I think it's just been over the years, it's been baffling for me personally to find out how much of this is just based on pride and preconceived notions about everything to do with big tobacco, and it has to be bad. And well, this is actually not big tobacco. It never will be.
Wasn't that the easy out though? Associate us to big tobacco, and it makes their argument that much easier because they can go, well,
we set it up perfectly for them.
Yeah.
Even if it is big tobacco, why aren't we like forcing big tobacco to make safer products? I mean, back again, California, they're forcing automobile manufacturers to move to the battery powered and get off of
asbestos brakes
engine and everything. But yet you can't have flavored vapor products. I mean, not that I'm arguing that tobacco. I mean, if you really were if you were really interested in the business of eradicating smoking, these tobacco, that these are safer products, these are less harmful. Why are you demanding that these companies only produce safer products? Like we're demanding them with cars.
God, I love having you on the show. We could go into Thursday and I wouldn't mind one bit.
I want them to take all the airbags out of my car. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know, maybe, man. I'm out of here faster and on to the next planet. It's good with me.
I think a lot of it has to do with just towing the line, right? So I mean, I refer back to that meme that I've shared a couple times where it says the first day of medical school and there's a doctor at the chalkboard and he's pointing to the writing on the chalkboard that basically says a patient cured is a customer lost. So for them, it's like, look, if you don't have all these problems, then how am I going to make that money to push the drugs that big pharma puts out that have all these other 8,000 side effects that could be just as equally damaging to you than what it's naturally intended for? I guess based on the fact that you spend so much time in the numbers, are you starting to see any skewing of the numbers beginning due to the fact that the nation in general has become more warm to the legalization of marijuana and THC products? More for the kids.
The way that they're presenting it? No, they watch how they do the NYTS survey. Oh, it's down like among all kids who are using it. So now they're harping on the e-cigarette kid users. Oh, half of them are using them every day or 20 days or more. And it's like, this is still like 5% of kids, dude. I mean,
where are they getting them? You can't buy anything in New York.
Yeah, I know.
And it's also 2.5 million kids were using e-cigarettes in 2021.
The guy with the trench coat.
That's the same
it's all those
amount
moms
of
with kids in band
e-cigarettes
class.
in California and Texas the same year. So
they're going into Pennsylvania.
I was surprised by that article because it almost seems like Mr. Mayor understands how a prohibition and bans work, and yet he is heading up the fight against evil big tobacco, even though he makes all the different points about how the failures of prohibition, yet we're going to fight this tooth and nail, the least important issue of all possible issues in New York. Incredible.
The article I shared today.
Yeah, the one that quotes him.
It's a fentanyl vape article. They all read the same. It's from some. I'm not going to start calling out names because I'll start getting in trouble.
No, this is the one of the New York mayor who wants to fight flavored vapes. The one who is the police chief for Mike Bloomberg.
Yeah, I know that one, but no, they're all the same. If you go through all of these op-eds, the reason I even came across that op-ed was because I typed in fentanyl vape. And that's what I do every day now because they're all coming out. But if you read any of the fentanyl vape stories, they all read the same. We got to get disposables off the market. Now, this is one of the better ones because the guy acknowledges prohibition doesn't work. But then again, you're arguing for prohibition. So this is one of the worst. I really want to contact this company's PR firm to be like, I can help you out with your arguments if that's what you're trying to do, but this is BS.
Just look at it. As all the denials started coming in, disposables got more and more and more popular. They're cheap to make, easy to rebrand, and you can get them through, and they're still going to come through, even though there's bans. That doesn't stop stuff from coming through.
It's like, why are you bringing in fentanyl? It was the FDA and oh yeah, shout out to the girl who keeps yelling at me on Twitter for pain. I'm not like talking about pain stuff.
Here, I got something for her.
This and everything. But like, I do get that with the whole, we have fentanyl because the FDA don't do that. She's actually really nice. Okay. We have pretty good conversations, and she's been on the pro vaping side. But like, and I do get it. We have a fentanyl problem because we like put restrictions on prescription pills. So what you're going to put, okay, so we're going to talk about fentanyl vapes. So we're going to get rid of all these vapes and think that fentanyl vapes are just going to go away. I mean,
yes.
And
listen, all illicit market dealers follow the guidelines.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they're licensed.
Exactly.
They're licensed.
And when the DEA decides to crack down on one thing, that creates more dangerous versions of that which was already being used.
New York is still selling e-liquids on Craigslist. I'll go and check him out about once a month to make
he's
sure
probably doing really well.
Any questions about my liquid? None. Yeah, like okay.
Like illicit market was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
All right, Lindsey. You may
that.
upset a few people with this question. This is a vaping show, so this question's about flavors. If you could remove one popular flavor, just gone, which one is it?
It's unicorn poop. That's an easy one. I mean, not really. Actually, I'd remove any of the flavors that have diacetyl in them, but I think everybody already.
No. I mean, an actual flavor, strawberry, mango. What is on
unicorn
Lindsey's?
poop. That's the one that they freaking talk about all the
I
time.
still don't know what flavor that is.
It's like rainbow.
What the hell does unicorn poop?
Everyone that had a unicorn
flavor.
It's like rainbow flavor, which is like what? Like I don't know, Skittles flavor or something.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with unicorn milk, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unicorn milk's different. Yeah. Well, now I'm kind of curious, Allie. What's that one flavor? Get that shit out of here. No more.
Guava, man. It tastes like dirty armpit to me. Okay, that's what it tastes like.
How about you, Phillip? What's that one?
She took guava. Damn,
You can use guava too.
No. Actually, fuck mango. Sorry. I don't like it.
Wow.
Tim's fighting.
I don't like.
Or no. You can take kiwi away. I don't know. It's just there are certain things that just don't dial me up, like pineapple, strawberry. I don't know, bloody pluot or orange, whatever.
Yeah.
There's certain combinations, but if there was like any one, all the cherries taste bad. Just cherry.
Can I change my answer? Hold on.
Can I change my answer? Any of the dessert flavors?
Black licorice.
That's mine. Black licorice needs to disappear forever.
But somebody out there needs that so they can quit smoking Salem's, man.
Timmy, what is yours, Tim?
Well, if I went back into my journey of vaping, there was one, and God, I can't remember the gosh darn name of the company. I feel like I should have. It was some boutique-y name, but it was a pistachio vape. And I thought it was the most disgusting thing I had ever vaped in mine. I would have on that day, I would have much rather vaped a fly, to be honest with you. It was just it was like it had some quirky little name, like I don't know, like
pistachio mint.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
It's usually an
it
ice
wasn't
cream.
a complex. Well, it wasn't a
Perfect
complex
pistachio
blend.
persuasion. Something.
No,
like
it
that.
was just a pistachio vape. I'm saying the name of the company that had produced it had some bougie little boutique-y kind of name, like somebody sat behind a curtain somewhere in a really friggin' awesome lab, and they were like, "This is going to be the best pistachio vape anybody's ever had in their entire life." And it came in my Zamplebox monthly. And I was like, oh, let me try. Like, it seemed like they had some other, and I'd never tried a pistachio before. I one hit, and I'm like, I threw the whole bottle away. I'm like,
okay, pistachio ice cream does not taste like pistachios. Okay.
No, that actually is quite pleasant, like coffee ice cream or something like that. Like people are like, oh, coffee. I'm like, eat it. It's actually really good. I mean, you don't have to love coffee to like coffee ice cream, but this pistachio, so all you e-liquid makers out there,
I will say I didn't like any of the mint or menthol, and I cannot do like disposables. Like I lost my vape the other night, and I was out and so I was like, oh, I'm not smoking a cigarette, so I got a freaking disposable, and I was just like, I'm looking at them, I was like, I know they're all gonna have some mint or menthol freaking taste to them. So even like this pink lemonade one's got a cooling agent in it. I'm like, ugh. Gave it to my brother.
No one said lychee. No one. I thought for sure I was going to hear that one.
I would have said that, but I've never tried one because the thought of is just horrifying.
It's floral, and I just don't like floral vapes either. Yeah. So if
you're
not into that kind of thing,
right? Yes, try our lavender line. No, thank you.
I love lavender now.
I'm waiting for that nacho flavor.
Clean linen. No, thank you.
All right, let me see.
Cucumber, man. I loved a Juul. Okay, I mean, you could vape a freaking Juul anywhere. Okay, and then places I'm not going to sit here and say online stuff that I vaped it on, but I love that cucumber, and I was like, come on, kids they ain't vaping this one.
Hey,
bring it back.
the mango killed them. What is your favorite line? Your favorite line from any movie?
My favorite line from any movie? Oh, well, screw the government from Legends of the Fall. It's on Netflix, by the way, guys. So,
Screw the government.
Screw the government. It's Anthony Hopkins,
Yeah.
Stroke patient and all. Screw the government.
In that scene, hell yes, that was good.
That was really good. Anthony Hopkins was probably the best thing in that movie. God,
absolutely.
I forgot how sad it was. Like, I think every time I watch it, I cry over different things. This time I cried because when Brad Pitt goes and sees him after the stroke, and it's just like, who knew Brad Pitt could actually act? I mean, in that one scene, he can act.
Did he? Or did he not have his shirt on when he said those lines?
He
was a beautiful man. It was impossible for people to take him seriously because he was just too good looking. But yeah, he is good.
Oh,
and that theme song, the music, the sound, whoever wrote the score to that film is a genius.
What's your favorite line, John?
Well, mine is always leave the gun, take the cannolis. This has been my favorite line forever in a movie, and that's The Godfather.
This has got me curious. I want to hear what Allison says.
God, I don't know. This is hard, but if the only thing that's coming into my mind right now is I'm a peacock, you got to let me fly. From
the other guys. I'm a peacock. Let me fly.
Did he just say peacock?
What's yours, Phillip?
Let me see here. Take dead aim on the rich kids, get them in the crosshairs, and take them down. They can buy anything, but they can't buy backbone. Don't ever let them forget that.
Nice.
Well, you should be an actor.
He said that like he was on English.
All right, Tim, how about you?
Yeah, Tim.
Mine is, and this is a classic. I said, put the bunny back in the box.
Come on here.
That was number 2.
Yes. You went with the Nicolas Cage movie. Shocker.
Yeah.
The snakeskin jacket is a sign of my belief in reality and personal freedom.
I'll hit you with one more, and then we'll get back to seriousness. I think I asked you this before when I interviewed you, but I can't remember if I did or didn't. What was Lindsey's first car?
Mercury Topaz.
Oh, I do remember you telling me, the Topaz,
like a
sweet
92
ride
or something. So, yeah. Who knows?
She has fond memories of it.
15 years later, I'd have a 92 Geo Metro.
Man, you stand up straight and say, I had a 92 Geo Metro.
I loved that thing, even though, man, I was constantly under the hood of it. But, yeah.
That was kind of like, you guys remember the Yugo? You guys remember the Yugo?
I mean,
Yes.
I don't remember the Yugo, but I know about
I
it.
remember they discontinued it rather swiftly. That part I remember. It didn't actually work out very well.
You go
for
no
certain-
more.
Right. A lot of people didn't make it through that part, that automobile's release and eminent.
Everybody's thrown in their lines now.
And cars, though. My car, I just got my car out of the shop. And, like, let me just tell you, dude, this sucked. Like, I drove it up to Illinois and I drove it back and I was having some issues with it. And it was like, I drive it and then would go to leave and it wouldn't start or anything. And then, okay, so kill it for a couple of hours and it'd start. So I took it to, I ended up taking it to 3 different shops. The first 2 shops were like, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. So then I did this like backwoods, like country boy, diesels. I got his big trucks and this is a Honda Fit. And I'm like, okay, this is the 3rd shop that I've gone to. Like, I don't care if you guys got to go run it around like town or whatnot. There is something wrong with it. Can you please fix it? Yeah. It's a fuel pump system or something like that. And apparently it's a big problem with these cars too. So, but they did fix it. So I got wheels again.
Yes.
Actually, now I'm surprised that you're not more pissed off about things. I've had weeks of car in the shop kind of it's a hard
Thankfully, I
existence,
work
man.
from home, so it's just like annoying my brother to be like, okay, take me to the grocery store so I could go pick up a bunch of food.
Yeah.
I have no wheels for the next week.
Yeah,
Does
I
he
never
show up?
realized. Yeah, I never realized how crooked shops are when women come in until I had brakes done on my. It was my Aerostar. This is back in '91, and we had all the brakes redone on the Aerostar and new tires. But we took it to Midas for the alignment because the shop didn't do an alignment. And they brought it in there. The guy puts it up on the rack and tells my wife at the time that she needs all new brakes. And my wife calls me up and goes, this guy says we need all new brakes. I said, well, tell him to take it down off the rack, go open the back of the trunk thing and show him all. Because I always, anytime I had repairs done, I want the old parts. And I had all the box with all the brake pads and everything that was replaced. And she opened it up and the guy looked at her and, oh, no, I'm sorry. I wrong vehicle. And my wife's looking around. She goes, I'm the only vehicle in here. How could you have given me the wrong?
Nicely played.
Nice. Well, yeah, good for
God,
her. Yes.
And I learned that she never was allowed to take a vehicle anywhere to have service because they would just always find something that supposedly needed fixed. And it's just,
I had the opposite effect. Okay, there was something that needed to be fixed, and they're like, "No, you don't need anything." But I need to go find what do you do when you go to a new place? Is you always find like a home, like a mechanic. It's kind of like finding a hairstylist. You always find some guy that just knows how to fix cars. I still got to go, find that guy down here. But
Yep.
I got a question for you, Allie, because I'm kind of interested on this. You wake up tomorrow morning, and everything is just fixed. Vaping's back in business. Everything is going strong. What's Lindsey doing next?
Living her fucking life.
Other than taking like a 5-year vacation.
Lindsey has I'm sure a lot of other interests, and she's extremely intelligent. So she'd move on to something else very fast, and it would probably be something stressful because how could we live without the stress? I don't know what I would do every day if I wasn't stressed out. Yeah. Which is pretty sad.
Yeah.
I almost need it.
I've gotten better at especially coming down to Florida. I've done a lot better on taking some time off, taking the work-life balance, not working every single day. I mean, it helps that my brother's a rock star musician and stuff. So I could always just go be a groupie for the night.
There you go.
But yeah. We're going to be busy though for a while. I mean,
forever.
I think we got job security for.
I'm going to be 90, and they're going to finally.
I was just trying to.
I remember my day.
I was just trying to see what other interests you had. So if
nuclear, I'd love to do nuclear, especially with what I did with vaping. Break it down for idiot politicians. So that and I've been watching this thorium salt reactor that's out in China. It's the first in the world, and everybody in the nuclear space is actually kind of watching it because it could revolutionize nuclear. It's a lot, you can't proliferate it. It's a lot safer. It's the half-life is a lot shorter. So when you get rid of the spent rods or anything, I got to go back to school to learn a little bit of chemistry though.
Bloomberg would put a whole bunch of money towards fighting that. So
Well, he is going after petrochemicals
Yeah, he
actually
is.
right now.
What
So
is he not
um,
going after?
You know, well, we had a question
Yeah.
earlier from one of the, and it's a good question. I brought it up before. I think I started. Let me make sure I did. Where was it? Was it this one? Oh, right here. There it is. Do you think body parts will still get funding when Bloomberg passes? Do you
I
think
don't
it
know.
continues?
He
I
probably
mean,
is
it's
gonna
probably
lose
in his
it,
will.
right? Yeah,
That's
his
his
will.
big. Well, in his big stuff, if you go through all of his finances too, it was tobacco that he pretty much like seeded Bloomberg Philanthropies. If you look at also all the finances, he's given over $1 billion towards tobacco. The only thing that kind of comes close to that is all the funding he gave the Sierra Club to shut down coal power plants.
Yeah.
So I mean, well, I don't know, because I don't see his kids being that anti, like the stuff that they're working on. I mean, yeah, you still have Frieden. Okay. You know, Tom Frieden was, you know, little history on this guy. He was the New York City Health Commissioner when Bloomberg was mayor. He ended up going and being CDC director when e-cigarettes were, he was started some of the, and Brian King actually worked under this guy too. And so we start seeing some of the stuff coming out from the CDC being anti e-cigarettes. Yeah, it's Frieden and that guy. And he's at Vital Strategies, which is completely being funded by Bloomberg. But Vital Strategies has actually done a lot more on like cardiovascular stuff globally. I know what they're doing too in the States is working on like harm reduction for opioids. But I mean, I think Bloomberg just wants to make everybody criminals, to tell you the truth, though.
Yeah. I say we just get some like vans, buses, and go drop a bunch of big gulps off at high schools and just start that problem up again for him. We need to distract him.
There's another one who's
with
just a
plastic straws.
sociopath who really needs to be right and needs to
no
not
paper
ever.
straws, plastic straws, plastic.
It's the paper straw in the plastic wrapping. Hello.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? Jim McDonald is always quick to point out that Bloomberg, Mike Bloomberg, knows only as much as Matt Myers from Tobacco Free Kids tells him. And I want to know, what do you think about that statement? Because it's something that I've looked into, but I don't have any evidence that it is true that Bloomberg listens to everything that Matt.
No, Bloomberg doesn't know anything about e-cigarettes.
My question is, who's telling him that he needs to? They're evil, and his great cause should be to get rid of them.
When he started giving money out, he was giving money to all the organizations that he was giving money to. So I mean, he's been in cahoots with CTFK, ALA, all of them for a while now. I mean, past 20 years at least, going through his tax records. I mean, and from what I understand too, with one of his campaigns that he did, like he learned his lesson with the e-cigarette campaign and giving money out to a bunch of different organizations instead of it coming from him. I mean, Bloomberg Philanthropies is not going in there paying that much for, like, yeah, you'll see on a couple ballot initiatives, you'll start seeing Bloomberg money go into that. But like all these campaigns that are going on, those are all those organizations that he's just given funding to.
Because he believes he's right to.
Well, you know, it's easier to conquer and divide with a bunch of small organizations than just being one behemoth. I mean, he learned it with this Beyond Carbon campaign. It didn't go anywhere. So that's why he's doing Beyond Petrochemicals. And it's the same thing that he's doing with like the vaping and tobacco thing. He's giving it to a bunch of different small organizations versus his own organization doing everything.
So basically, campaign for Tobacco Free Kids and the other anti-smoking groups.
Army of Bloomberg.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, they said we need to do something about this. He said, yes, we do. And once that man is going to do something, well, damn it, he's not going to stop.
I mean, he is a billionaire. My question is, do you think he has some sort of at the end of the year, send me a report type situation with these organizations that he's sending money to? Like, does he want to see change numbers?
I don't think it's him, but I definitely think it would be as like CFOs, financial officers. Yeah, I'm sure that they all have to do reporting. I'm glad that I get to piss them off every year. They did not get any.
Who is this Lindsey? Who is this?
They don't know.
Payback is sweet.
It's Taxpayers Protection Alliance. It screwed us this year. You know,
who is this
they were
Lindsey?
in every hearing.
She's in Florida.
I love what
Well,
I
kept saying the same thing pretty much in every hearing. So.
Hey, I've tried to help her get out of Florida. She simply he doesn't want my help. No. I would love to know your feelings about this though. When it comes to the message, I think. Do you think that Mike Bloomberg has committed to this, vaping. We need to save the kids. And do you think that the idea that he might not be right about this as an issue as an entire issue, do you think it's ever crossed his mind? And if it has, do you think he would ever be comfortable in conceding any of the points that we're making here?
Yeah, I think Bloomberg has a big disdain towards big tobacco. I think you can see it through everything that he's done throughout, like when he was a mayor of New York City. I think he's got a big disdain towards people who smoke. Actually, I mean, you could see there's some quote that I pulled from him about you got to be really stupid to smoke, is what I think that's like he's directly quoted as sitting there and saying back when he was mayor of New York City. So I think that's really in that he looks at this as that vaping's just big tobacco's new thing to hook adults or hook kids. And that, it doesn't, because he doesn't care about the people who smoke. So he doesn't get that it's actually a consumer driven revolution for people, who tried everything else under the sun and couldn't quit smoking.
Right.
So no, he's going to die on it. Okay. And I wouldn't be surprised too, if he's got like Tobacco Crusader on his grave. Okay. So.
I thought
he's gonna have a jewel with an X on it.
I suppose it always fascinates me to think about, you have these people with just endless resources, financial resources, who at the end of the day don't really know anything about vaping or anything that they are paying to oppose. And it's interesting to me, who is the most prominent one? What voice in their ear is the loudest, I suppose, and why? But
Campaign for Tobacco Free Kids, I would say, has a louder voice with the state level, and even with they're the ones who actually do the research and disseminate all the data and stuff. I mean, they just updated their whole 14-page thing about e-cigarettes, and they're bad and all this stuff, but. They're the ones I think that are really pushing the narrative that are actually and pushing out the bullet points. They're the brainchild of it, and I don't think it's Matt Myers. I think it's people who's working underneath them.
Yeah,
good point. I also think that you've got the abolitionists, what's her name from gosh.
Talking about the paved lady?
Meredith?
No. Researcher, Tobacco Control, Journal of Tobacco Control. What is her name? Basically, they did a whole article or the study on how we should not use the word prohibition. We should use abolition, because it invokes images of slavery and oppression, things like that. It was horrifying and insulting and truly racist. It was terrible.
Abolitionists were going to freedom. That would be that the vapors are trying to have freedom.
Which means the tobacco control
students on history even more. They're already idiots to be.
It's incredible that they're comparing themselves to the people in it.
Well, if you go and see these kids at these hearings that go and step up, it's always they're all doing anecdotes. Mm-hmm. It's never where's the addicted kid, okay? Or you have the mom, bring your freaking addicted. I mean, that's even does your kid like public speaking? I mean, you caught your kid vaping, fuck it, embarrass the hell out of them, make them go and do public speaking. But it's always anecdotes like, oh, I'm seeing it all the time, or oh, my kid. Well, where's your kid at? I mean. Right. Yeah. Which I think would be effective, if you had 20, average age 50 plus or whatnot, just going in there saying, hey, I smoked for this many years. I tried everything. I was unable to quit smoking. I finally quit smoking this many years ago using this flavor. Do not ban it. Move on. I mean, don't do you don't do 10, 30 seconds of time where, it would scare the living crap out of them.
True.
True. The poll question today, do you still have your first vape device? I'm shocked to see 63% out of 30 votes. 63% said yes.
I had the wrong button. I couldn't switch down. I do not have the first vape device. Okay.
30% said no, and 7% said no. They passed it on to a newbie. I would have liked to seen that, unless it
We
was a
wonder
really
what
shitty.
was it really Evali or was it COVID?
I mean, I
This-
started with a
this is the
650
top.
battery and like a disposable tank. Like, what the hell am I going to do with that right now?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think
Put 'em
it
in a
depends on
museum.
when you start it is a big
Yeah.
thing. You know,
I
if
think
you
I had one of
started,
the ghetto jewels. So
Yeah.
you know.
can I still get a coil for this? What the hell is that?
Oh, wait, actually, no. My very first one was like one of the pen tank ones, and even then, I was just like, I can't use this one. I'm definitely a pod person. I'm like, yes, easy, convenient. I can pick my own flavors. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of like one of these refillable mouthpieces.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was
I've had a refillable
Ricardo's.
pod system. Yeah. It's like I've had it for a while now. I've lost all my other ones. I've got some coming in the mail. Oops.
Timmy still has
Didn't
his
say that.
number one.
Yeah, I still got
Yeah.
the blue up there in the box
Yeah.
in the attic. I'll bring it down one day. I'll go up there and bring
Blue.
it down. Yeah.
So
You
me
still
and
have
Martin were
them?
talking. I think Martin just put it. Somebody put it. I think it was Martin just wrote about like disposable vapes. So they're like, oh, these newfangled things, and they're like, what do you mean newfangled? Blue was a disposable vape. I mean, you know,
Exactly. Logic, Blue, all of them.
like,
Logic.
do you not realize everything comes back?
Yeah.
It comes back improved. Okay.
Yeah. I still have the little case too that you had to charge, and then they
Yeah.
tricked it out so where if you were near somebody else that had a case, it would vibrate and let you know you were near another blue.
I got a
smoker.
friend.
Oh, come
Yeah.
on. That-
Yeah, so you can
this
have
is
that.
a thing?
Like,
Yeah.
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 Which
Need
you know,
that
if
again, actually.
if you- well, okay, so I think one of the bigger things around that time period when blue was sort of came onto the landscape is there was a lot of
Positive.
there was a lot of stigma around it, you know, especially for guys, right? Because it had the little blue light on the end of it when you would inhale and stuff like that, and so there
all
was
the
a lot
commercials were men. They were trying to make it for men. I remember the commercials
Yes,
always being like, "Oh, look at this manly man doing this."
Exactly. Absolutely. And I don't think that their target audience was incorrect. I think guys at that time, it was still relatively new on a consumer level in terms of like people starting to recognize what it was because of the advertising and everything. So when you're a smoker and at those times you could, in many bars, you could still smoke in the bar.
Yep.
So, you knew you were going to have to bring this thing in there. And I think there was just reluctance because you're like, oh, I don't want my friends to see me with this thing in my mouth because they're just going to think I'm being super femme about it. So I think that Blue's idea of having it sort of vibrate if you were close to another pack, was sort of like, oh my God, okay, I don't have to feel alone. There's somebody around that, actually.
I am losing my mind here. I've never heard of
Yeah.
this.
It worked too. It worked.
It did work. I mean, it was a little hokey, but I think what they were trying to do is establish a bit of that network. Like, hey, if it does start to resonate and vibrate and the light starts flashing, that you have someone in your vicinity that has made that choice as well. So you could start that conversation or at least feel like you're in the company.
I do that
somebody.
all the time when I see somebody vaping. I go up to anybody vaping. Hey, did you use that to quit smoking?
Well,
Yeah,
think
I was that
about
way
it.
too. I was the
did-
vibrator. I would go up to everyone and say, check out my blue light.
Little did Blue know that was exactly what happened. I mean, to be honest, that's exactly how this community, I think, a great way to start it, because look at us now. I mean, it's just like you said, when we see someone else vaping, that's the first thing we ask. Hey, what is that? What mod is that? Or what tank do you have? What flavor are you vaping? What brand? So it would just start.
No, the first thing I ask is if they used it to quit smoking.
Yeah.
Always doing data, so.
Did your mom buy it for you?
No. I always go, okay, when I see younger people, I don't ask them that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I kind of am like, you're one of these people like, oh no, I never smoked. And it's like, I forget y'all do exist. And then I'm like,
actually, I'll ask that
maybe
one.
they
If I get
wouldn't.
a I'll be like,
Well, actually, because
well
I always
done.
see them hanging out with the smokers too. So something's like, and it's always at bars. So it's like, you probably would have been smoking if this wasn't out there. I mean, that's the study that they really wish that they would do.
What I've noticed here is, yes, I don't see younger people vaping. What I do notice in this area here is that the 18 to under 21 is very comfortable about doing it in general in the public. It's not like they give a crap what you think. Yeah, again, the teenager that's under 18, yeah, they're going to try to hide it. But here, like 18 to 20, they're just walking around vaping. They don't care if that, they're like, screw it. I don't talk to them, but I do see them at the bowling alley. When we go bowling on Sunday, they have this little room that's inside that you can go smoke or vape in. And
smoking closet.
Yeah, and it's just like this. It's so small. It's maybe 8 people can fit in there, and of course there's 20 in there. But I'll sit in there and I'm vaping and I'm looking around. And I'm going 17, 18, 20. I don't see. And I'm not going to say nothing, but they'll always go, "What are you vaping? What flavor is that?" Because they'll smell it. I don't know how, because that thing above our heads is so friggin' loud. Oh, it's just
probably hasn't been changed in 10 years. So no one's in there smoking. Everyone's in there vaping, crowded into a little elevator with an air filter that's not actually doing anything. So you can all. Well, at least you're not all going to die together in there now because, I don't see any secondhand vapor.
Mr. Nick Orlando.
That's really horrible.
I don't see him hide them. I don't see them hide
Nick Orlando's in here. Nick, I need to talk to you. I mean, if I need to go up to Tallahassee to go get those Florida numbers, let's do a road trip.
There you go.
It's only 2 hours away from me, dude. It's got to go down I-10, so...
Speaking of Florida,
didn't update their numbers. They didn't give their numbers to the CDC. I mean, good for you telling the CDC to go screw themselves. Bad for me if I'm doing a 50-state analysis, but
yeah.
Like I got a deadline here. Yeah, I got you.
I'm still gonna publish it. I'm not gonna let the Sunshine State ruin the rest of the country. Okay.
That's a whole different world over there. It's a whole different. I don't know how I got stuck watching these YouTube videos, but I got stuck on watching people that want to live on boats. And it seems like all these people live in Florida.
I've been buying a boat to go live on, actually. So I'm trying to I need to buy a place and be an adult and everything. And I was like, I could buy a houseboat. I could live on it.
I can't afford any of these boats that they're showing because they're all like $3 million, $2 million yachts.
Yeah, I was looking at like 200,000 or less.
Yeah, they're all in Florida. Every single person is in Florida.
There's a lot in Alabama too.
I'm going to say go with the Winnebago or the very used Winnebago and let the boat. You can get that later because, let's just say one sinks and the other one you can fix a flat. That's all.
You're in Florida, boats in Florida, and hurricanes come through there, and then before you know it, your houseboat is really a houseboat.
Really a houseboat.
It's landborne.
I was in Tampa the year that we had 5.
I'm curious for this question for you, Lindsay. Give me your top 3 states that are doing it right.
Doing it right, like anything doing it right. Oh God, North Carolina. No, I mean, honestly, I'm a woman. Way to go, Ohio. By the way, yesterday on that one, Missouri, actually, another one, but I mean, I love North Carolina. I think that's God's country. You got the mountains, the beach, it's Southern. Not bless y'all's heart, Southern, but the war on women right now in this country is really freaking scary. So,
as far as vaping,
none of y'all have never had a drunken one night stand, and it shows. Okay, so
I have, but no, I'm talking about as far as vaping. What's your top 3 states doing it right for vaping?
Oh God, Florida is doing it really well. Missouri is doing it. I mean, there's actually like a handful. There's probably about like 10, probably at least any state that doesn't have a vape tax is doing it right. I mean, the ones that you're not seeing pop up, honestly, any state, it's better to be like the states that are doing it wrong, which is like the Northeast and the West Coast, and encroachingly coming into like the Midwest, the Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois part, but every other state's doing it fine. You're not seeing a lot of alarmism.
Arizona, Texas.
Arizona's coming. No, but you're seeing it. You're seeing. I mean, they've already won the battle in California. So,
Yeah.
like this year,
It's going to feed into that.
This year, New Mexico, you saw them because they already had the vape tax. They wanted to change the vape tax, and they also put a flavor ban in there. Arizona was doing a thing with preemption. They've been able to kind of keep it stopped, but you're still seeing, an appetite. Versus like Missouri, all I saw was preemption. I didn't see anybody like try to bring a flavor ban ahead. Like Colorado was actually interesting this year to not see a flavor ban be dropped.
Does it not drive you crazy that states that are doing so many things right will absolutely always, without fail, do this one thing wrong when it comes to other policies?
South Carolina, we can't get weed here. I mean, we will never get that shit.
You're gonna be the last state. You're gonna be the last state
weed, man.
that gets weed. Okay.
I'm in Alabama. You watch the news this week, yeah? Okay, okay. That's all I have to say.
Have you seen the video where the guy's rapping Montgomery Bro? You gotta see it.
This is the sort of thing that is possessing me at the moment, and I have nothing more to say
That's
about
good,
that.
Allie.
So you've seen the video of Montgomery Bro? That's been stuck in my head all day.
You understand? I love where I live and where I grew up, but I've lived half my
I got
life
robbed
elsewhere.
in Montgomery, so I'm not a big
Well,
fan.
Lindsay, if you had talked to me first, you would have gone to
you gotta-
Montgomery. Damn it!
The mayor.
So-
the mayor.
Don't go there.
I went there to help out the state alliance.
Well, you gotta come with. I have to go with you, or Greg has to go with you, or somebody has to go with you. Call Rob. Damn it!
I'm around you didn't protect me, and now my car got robbed. So
Well, I was gonna say, Tennessee as well and Georgia were are two as well that seem to be doing things properly and right and staying out of the news.
Georgia's got a weird one. I mean, they no, they're not doing things right because once again, they do have lawmakers that have appetites for these bills. The ones that are like the best states are the ones where you see nothing happening. You don't even have to put them on your freaking radar. I think Georgia's got a PMTA registry or something like that they don't even know how to handle. Like I would say like Indiana's doing it right, but no, Indiana's got this thing where they're coming after this vape tax, and half the people aren't paying the vape tax and stuff.
Pretty positive relationship between areas that have higher income and stricter vape regulations. So, excuse me, inverse.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, positive.
And I can't say anything like Texas too, and their vaping stuff. I mean, I learned this week. There's actually I guess 12 states that if you get caught with a THC vape, it's a felony. But if you got caught with the same amount, if it was like bud, it's a misdemeanor. Yeah. Florida's one of those states too, apparently. So
Alabama was. I don't believe we are anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you could drive around, but the passenger could drive around, with a beer in Alabama.
You guys live you guys all live on super yachts and shit out there in Florida, right, Nick?
Oh yeah.
No, Nick knows how to get around. He has a Passat. At least he had a Passat.
They all have like $300,000 speedboats, yachts with jet skis.
You have that
in the back.
too, but you have the VW Passat.
All right, guys, we are at the 2-hour mark. Lindsay, thank you again for joining us. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. And I'm going to let the rest of the hosts thank you for being on the show. Allie.
Thank you, Lindsay. You're amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, we'd love to have you back anytime, and I'll probably message you something tomorrow. Something ridiculous, I find.
Surprised we didn't bring that up, but we get into it.
That's you, Phillip.
Thank you, David, Skip, all of you for doing the work that I will freely admit I am not doing. But then again, it's just the sort of thing that you have been doing for such a long time, and I think most people aren't aware of it. Ever since, I don't know, how long did you work at the Heartland Association before?
Oh gosh, 2016 to 2020, so 4 years.
You have been the Data Queen for a long time, and may she continue to reign. Thank you so much. It's great to see you.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. Well, I have a sneaking suspicion Lindsay will be back. I don't know that we actually need to ask her back. I just have this. Something tells me Lindsay will be back, but that's fantastic news.
Yeah, but I might.
Well, that's true. Okay. And Lindsay, can you wear a ladybug costume when you come back?
I knew I should have kept my
that
damn
would
mouth
that would be absolutely epic. No, but I think it goes without saying that we all absolutely appreciate your determination, your fortitude, and your drive to pull these numbers and put all this data together, because it's something that helps our fight, because we can show them on paper where the numbers stand. So absolutely love your commentary, and thank you for being on the show again.
Well,
And
thank
again,
you guys for
and
letting
again.
me on the show. You guys are doing great work yourselves. Thanks for, putting this on. So I might be like throwing some people at you, moving up to COP and everything, some of the experts, and get them on here. So yeah.
If you ever have somebody that you would love us to put on the show, and you would have them just get a hold of Allie or myself, DM us and let us know who we should have on the show, or you can get someone to come on with you. We'd appreciate it. We would
got a bunch of like global people in there. We
Yeah,
might have a translation service going on.
the thing too, I think, like with COVID, there's a lot of bad things that happen with COVID and some positive things. And I think one of the positive things is people that were so afraid to do stuff like this live have gotten a lot better at doing it, because they, with Skype and Zoom and everything else, and with work doing it, I think it's kind of helped, because before that, I think it was really hard to live. People see me. Can I do it in the dark? And I'm like, no.
Can I do it with a bag over my head?
Nothing say.
So look at the upside. You'll be famous. Oh wait,
yeah.
Not always good.
You'll be Bloomberg famous.
Yeah, it's always good in this space.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody in chat for joining us and throwing out some questions there for Lindsay. We will see everybody next week. We'll let you know who will be joining us. That's it for us. Good night and peace out. Say goodbye to everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.